You think a sewing machine is just a simple tool for sewing clothes? Well, you're wrong. The person who invented the sewing machine, his hands were broken in public by other tailors. Why? Because the moment the sewing machine appeared, hundreds of thousands of tailors lost their jobs overnight. But here's the crazy part. The core mechanism of this machine stumped the best engineers in Europe for 50 years. 50 years. And the man who finally solved it said he figured it out because he had a dream where a savage stabbed him with a spear. So what's the secret inside this machine? Here's something that'll blow your mind. The needle of a sewing machine never actually goes through the fabric. It stabs down and then immediately runs away. But somehow, the thread locks in place, so tight you can't pull it out. This trick took humans nearly 100 years to fully understand. Let's go back to 1755. Back then, being a tailor was hard labor. You had to push the needle through the fabric, flip it over, push it back, flip it again. Fingers would bleed all the time. A German inventor named Charles thought, what if we make a needle with points on both ends and put the eye in the middle? You push it in, no need to flip, just pull it back out. That doubled the speed instantly. Sounds perfect, right? But there was a fatal flaw. When you pulled the needle back, the thread came with it. So after all that work, not a single stitch stayed. It was a total failure. But it planted a seed. Engineers became obsessed with one question. Why does a thread pull out? Because it's not locked. So how do you lock it? The answer was hidden in a tiny detail. When the needle goes down to the fabric, a small loop of thread forms underneath. If you can keep that loop there and have the next needle pass through it, you get loop after loop like a chain. That's called a chain stitch. Sounds simple, but making it work a machine, that stumped an entire generation of engineers. In 1830, a Frenchman named Thimonier built the first working chain-stitch sewing machine. When the news got out, the tailors of Paris lost it. That machine could do the work of 200 tailors in a day. Hundreds of thousands of jobs, threatened by a lump of iron. An angry mob stormed the factory, smashed the machines, and beat Thimonier so badly he barely escaped Paris with his life. But progress doesn't stop because people are scared. There was just one problem with the chain stitch. If one thread broke, the whole seam unraveled. Imagine wearing a brand new suit and one thread snaps, and your pants fall apart in public. That nightmare haunted engineers for another 30 years. Then, in 1857, two inventors came up with a solution, almost at the same time. One added a small metal hook under the fabric. Every time a needle came down and formed a loop, the hook grabbed it like an eagle snatching prey and held it in place. Then the needle went through that loop again, locking the thread so it couldn't escape. The other inventor made the hook spin, smoother, faster. Later, more than 80 types of sewing machines used this design. But that's still not the end. Remember the guy who dreamed about being stabbed by a spear? That was Elias Howe. For years, he'd been trying to solve the problem of broken threads. Then one night, he had a nightmare. He was captured by savages, and one of them raised a spear to stab him. He stared at that spear and noticed the tip had a hole in it. He woke up in a flash. The eye of the needle should be at the tip, not in the middle. That small change, combined with a new structure underneath, finally fixed the problem for good. It was called a lock stitch. Here's how it works. Under the fabric, there's a small bobbin with a second thread. When the top thread comes down with the needle and forms a loop, the bobbin passes right through that loop. The two threads lock together right inside the fabric. If one thread breaks, you lose 1 or 2 stitches, but the whole seam stays together. That's a system still used in every sewing machine today. Later, the bobbin was replaced with a rotating hook that spins nonstop at high speed. That's why modern sewing machines can sew thousands of stitches a minute, so fast you can't even see it. But there was one last problem. How do you make the fabric move by itself? In early machines, you had to push the fabric forward by hand after every stitch. The seams ended up crooked like a cat drew them. Then engineers added a small metal plate under the fabric shaped like a washboard. Every time the needle lifted, this plate pulled the fabric back just a little, while a presser foot held it down so it wouldn't shift. Needle, feed, presser foot, 3 parts working together, like a perfect mechanical symphony. It's one of the most beautiful machines of the industrial age. From the strange double-pointed needle in 1755 to the high-speed rotating hook we use today, it took humans 100 years to get it right. Every piece of clothing you wear, it's the result of a century of mechanical genius. It's just that the sewing machine is so quiet. Most people see it as just a simple tool,